Hi everybody. Thanks a lot for coming. It looks like a good turnout tonight. I'm not going to talk about myself. It's not about me. So I'm just representing the struggle that we take part of and the Palestinian non-violent struggle, as some of you heard of. I'm going to sit and you're going to watch a few videos, and mostly what you're going to see are pictures, the slides. And we're going to have a discussion in the end. Hopefully everybody will get their answers. Just a few words about Anarchists Against the Wall. The Israeli wall is started to be constructed in 2002, and there was a Palestinian non-violent struggle against it. In the spring in 2003, I think the spring, there was an international camp in the village of Masra, which internationals, Israelis and Palestinians for 3 months sat together and tried to brainstorm and to see how they make a joint struggle with everybody who want to join the non-violent struggle against the wall and the construction of it. And since then, Anarchists Against the Wall are active. As you see later, every week we go to demonstrations, we do other stuff, which most of it you will see here tonight. About myself a bit, I'm 29 years old. I've been active most of my life, since the age of 12, not always as an anarchist. That's all. I think we just start with the pictures because I don't want to spend time talking about myself. And if you don't see, I'm apologizing, but you can stand or try to get forward. Okay, so I know we called Anarchists Against the Wall, but it's actually a screensaver. Actually, we are a group that's been founded to join, as I said, the non-violent struggle and to participate in demonstration and direct actions. And it's open to everybody who is willing to be part of this struggle and understand the way we're acting. The wall is only a symbol of the Israeli occupation in the last 40 years, or even in the last, some people consider it, and most of us consider it, 6 years of oppression for most of Palestinians and Arabs in Israel and Palestine. Since the second Intifada, or beginning of 2000, Israel started and amplified the separation policy that it's based in the Israeli society. Most of it's something that people don't hear about, and what I'm going to show tonight is not horrible things or massacres like what happened in Gaza. It's not cases that you usually see in the news. It's the daily life in Palestine, the horrible daily life under the oppression of the Israeli authorities. And this is how we see it, and this is what we do against it, or try to do against it. I will start with a first set that shows this daily life, and then we go for what we do against it. And okay, so this picture, it looks like a border a checkpoint on a border maybe, but this is on Palestinian land. All the pictures you're going to see tonight, most of them are from the West Bank. I have no pictures from Gaza because nobody can get in or out for the last year and a half. And Israelis can't get there for the last, I don't know how many years, I think 15 years more or less. Especially not activists. So this is on Palestinian land, between Jerusalem and Hebron. And Palestinians used to go on this main road for many years. And I think a few years ago, it became this huge size of checkpoint where Palestinians can go only into Hebron, which according to Israelis is Palestine, but both sides is an occupied land. But Israelis can go back and forth. The separation policy and the checkpoints are, you can see it everywhere. If this is a random concrete blocks that blocking Palestinian cars to go from one village to another, and then you have a jeep that also randomly came this morning to decide which Palestinians go from one side to another. Israelis always blame it for security. I think at least most of you will agree in the end of this presentation tonight that security is only excuse for the ongoing oppression and policy in the West Bank. But I'm open to hear discussion and our views in the end. People don't convict in the end. But if you see on the top right corner, there is a road with few cars. This is a road that goes on Palestinian land. I will talk about it more later, but this road is only for Israelis or only for Jews. The wall itself, this is again outside the city of Bethlehem. This is a checkpoint. Every morning, people stand in queues. They need to get a permit to cross this checkpoint, to go to work, to go to school. And they can wait for 2-3 hours. They need to wait very early, and then you need to go for the same line on the way back usually. And sometimes they don't go through because the tolerance of the soldiers is not that high. And as you can see here, it doesn't need to be a checkpoint that is institute or something official. It can be a place where they decided to put a random group of soldiers that will control the people that are going through. This is a checkpoint of Kalandia between Ramallah and Jerusalem. And what happens there and many other places is that the soldiers don't have respect anymore to people that go through. The fence or the wall itself, the barrier, is Israeli call it separation barrier. We call it the Apartheid Wall. It's mostly a fence, and the only part of it which is around Jerusalem, it's concrete wall, as you can see. The length of all of the barrier, I think it's around 410 miles. It might be less or more, but I think I'm kind of accurate about it. To cross the fence that goes mostly on Palestinian land, you need to go through the gates. And these gates are monitored by Israeli soldiers that are not really trained to deal with civil population. So they can wake up in the morning, and it will be a cold day. So they stay in the base and decided, no, we're not going there. We just, this morning we stay in our bed. And these people need to go through these gates. Here it's to go inside the East Jerusalem in Abu Dis, in the neighborhood of Abu Dis. But in other places, it can be separating the farmer from his land, and he can't work it. We use the term apartheid when most of people are afraid to use it. This is a picture that I like to show where apartheid is reality in Palestine. This road is separated by a wall. When one side of it is for Jews and one side of it is for Palestinians. And maybe many organizations don't want to use the term apartheid, but you can find another word, the one you like to use, to describe the racist separation policy that Israelis use in many places. And again, I know that people use the excuse of security, but this is an occupied land. And if you want to have security, and if you believe that you really need security, just don't be there. Go back to the side that is supposed to be the Israeli state. The wall goes in the middle of villages, as I said before. This is another way of controlling the Palestinian. What they do in East Jerusalem and many other places, when a Palestinian wants to build a house or extend a house, they need a permission from Israel, a permit. And there is a natural growth in the population. In East Jerusalem, since '67, when the Israeli army occupied, and Israel occupied East Jerusalem, they didn't give one permit to build a house. And I think in the last 10 years, they already destroyed 600 houses, almost 700 houses. And it's important to understand that this is during peace process. And if last year we had the Annapolis conference when they announced they starting to have peace talks again, we document, when I say we, you can see active stills in the left corner. It's a photography collective that I'm part of. They're documenting social struggle, mostly in Palestine. We documented 8 house demolition in the same week when they talk about peace process. And this is a reality for most of Palestinians. When they hear peace, they only hear about it, but they are under the occupation. And when they go there, they suffer from it. So they don't have an option to go away or to hear people talk about peace when this is reality. Another way of control are these towers. You have watchtowers all around the West Bank. It can be near a road, it can be in the entrance of a village. You have snipers sometimes up there. You have cameras that monitoring everybody in the area. Sometimes it will be with a checkpoint. They open sometime and sometimes they close it. But it's everywhere. You're always underneath the eye and the surveillance of the Israeli authorities and forces. This is another example of the concrete blocks. These blocks are stopping the people of the village in our side to cross the valley on the other side. They're allowed to walk there, but the walk is long and not that easy. So if they could use a car, which what happened in the past, now they can't use it. They can go around. It will take them instead of 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it takes them 45 minutes to an hour. Just to want to show the proportion of what the army doing. This is again the same checkpoint I showed before, Kalandia. The army always estimate confrontations and riots. But if the army is not there and the army doesn't go around, you usually won't see confrontations. But when they're going over there and they in some way also provoking and not treating the people as they want to, and they prohibiting some people to go to pray, this is during the Ramadan on Fridays, going to pray in Jerusalem, there will be some tensions that can lead to confrontation. The wall breaking Palestine into small pieces. Well, even if you don't want to call it a ghetto, there are small pieces that are becoming separate from each other. It's official Israeli policy. If you look at the plans that Israel want to build, Palestine becoming small and small pieces. But sometimes you don't need to have a wall. You can have a barbed wire where you just put it on the land and preventing a person from working the land. You see it in many places. In the end of the day, what happens to these farmers, they just need to leave and they evict these areas. And they don't work the land anymore because they don't have money to stay there. The second part of the set talks about the settlers and settlements. You can see on each hill and mountain in this picture a Jewish settlement. All these red roof houses are settlements that are built on occupied territories. According to a document that has been reviled 2 weeks ago by one of the newspapers in Israel, this is a document that was written, a report that was written by the security minister or office. And they're saying that 75% of the settlers are built illegally on Palestinian land. We consider 100% of the settlements illegal. But if the Israeli government published a document that's saying that 75% of the settlements are built on illegally on Palestinian land, imagine what they really say among themselves when they do these things. But the government is not always the worst thing. The settler violence can be in different ways. We had a call, somebody called us from a village near Nablus, from Asir al-Kabliya, and they told us that the settlers set fire on their groups. And we couldn't get close, but we succeeded to document it from far away, and we did get closer. It was too late. And many times they don't need to set on fire. They just come, terrorize the farmers, break the trees, as you can see here, and nobody stopped them. They officially did a policy this year, and they said it in the media, that every time Israel authorities will try to evict an illegal settlement or illegal outpost, so they'll go and attack Palestinians. And they officially say it. They're not afraid of it. Nobody started an investigation because of this document they published. And the army almost never started to stop them. And one of the cases was in the same village. The settlers came, they marched into this village, they destroyed a car, this car and maybe another one. They actually turned it over, this after the Palestinians turned it back. They threw stones and shot bullets towards these Palestinian houses. And when the army came, the only things they did was to shoot tear gas and rubber-coated bullets toward Palestinians instead of to make the settlers safe on the way home. And from the evidence we collect and heard, the soldiers didn't care, and they actually were kind of collaborating with the settlers. But the worst case we had last year was in Hebron. There was a house that had been occupied by Jewish settlers for 2 years. It's called the Peace. They call it the Peace House. The peace for settlers is what you see in this picture. When the army just said they're going to evict it, and it took a few days to evict it until they got to the eviction point, the settlers started to riot all around town. And as you can see, they also tried to burn down Palestinian houses. They broke most of the tombstones in the nearest Muslim cemetery. They attacked the Israeli forces with huge rocks. If any Palestinian will pick up a rock like this, will end seriously injured. But when Israeli or Jewish people doing it, well, on the right-wing side, they hardly do anything to them. They did arrest people, but they released them at the end of the day. As you see later, this is a one-side policy. When they arrest or shoot at us, you will see the consequences soon. in the one of the next sets of pictures. It's just a closer picture of how it looks like. I'm not sure if this house has been totally burned in the end or not, but the people that were in the roof, as you saw earlier, it's our settlers as well. I end this set of talking about the occupation and the daily oppression to show you the symbol of it. On our side of the picture, you see the Israeli side, or it's still an occupied land, but it's so-called Israeli side. It's a very fancy roundabout when you have an olive tree. This olive tree been uprooted probably during the construction of the wall. Till the end of 2006, around 100,000 trees been uprooted for this wall. I don't have the data since 2006, but people who are familiar with the movie In My Love, it's mentioned over there. I'm sure if you check today, there are many more that have been uprooted, because as you see later, I saw this year how many trees are being uprooted. But when Israelis look on the wall on this side, they have two options, what they see on the other side. The others see nothing. They get the wall all the way to the skies. Nobody lives on the other side. They don't care about what's happening on the other side. Or they see enemies, they see animals, they see savages. This is how most of the population, especially if you follow the election results from yesterday, this is what they believe about Palestinians, unfortunately. They've been educated for it. And for us, doing the solidarity work, as you're going to see in the next set, is trying to break this policy of separation. Even if we can't break the wall, even if we don't take down the roadblocks, and even if when we do these things and attempt to doing it, it's a momentary victory and we know it will be back, by creating relationship and friendships with Palestinians, we have a hope, as Wael said earlier. We had some kind of reason to continue doing what we're doing. And it's very important for us. When I started to be active, this was the thing that was in my mind. If one Palestinian boy will see an Israeli which he doesn't recognize as a soldier, and he will remember it when he grow up, I have a small victory, because I have some kind of chance to have some kind of coexistence in this piece of the land. And it doesn't matter what kind of solution you're looking at, as we might discuss later. The next set talks about resistance and actions that we do. I'm just grabbing my water, 1 second. The first part that I show on this set is the South Mount of Hebron. The South Mount of Hebron suffer from a lot of settlers' violence that been backed up by the army. And what we do in this area is to escort farmers to work the land, to separate between them and the settlers. Because the army, when they come there, sometimes they help, but most of the time they don't. And as you can see, we're literally standing sometimes. Some members are standing between the settlers that come and attack. Because what happened to us, what happened to them during the week when we are not there and there are no internationals, even when there are internationals, there are many attacks. We had cases this year when part of the herd's been slaughtered. We had donkeys that had been stolen and slaughtered in settlements, camels that had been stolen and slaughtered. In one case, we had 4 masked settlers coming down from the hill with wooden batons and sticks. They entered a Palestinian house and beaten up the family. And in this family, there was an old lady, 70 years old. They broke her arm, they broke her cheekbone, she was all bruised. And in the end of the day or the week, the army, they started investigation, but they had no clue. And the settlers said it was a left-wing activist who'd been dressed up like settlers, and they provocate the area. And this is a base. This is a base of what the army believe. They believe that every time we go there, we're making the provocation. They believe that our presence is a problem. And whenever we go there, they will declare a closed military zone, that we will resist to accept the idea. This is a stolen Palestinian land. And if we're invited to be there by Palestinians, we are welcome, and not the army and the settlers. So if they want to get rid of internationals and Israelis and declare closed military zones, as while that we are there, we're not going to accept it. And as long as there is an occupation, the only work for the army to do in these places is to protect the farmers from settlers. And if they don't do it, if the army doesn't do it, we will do it, and we will go there as long as we are called. It's very important that I didn't mention it yet, and I usually do it in the first slide. All the work we do is solidarity with Palestinians, and it comes from the point that Palestinians call us for collaboration and solidarity. We'll never come and initiate an action with Palestinians. We'll never come and suggest them what to do. We'll never patronize them. We are coming from the occupiers' side. We are the people that oppress them. And even though that we are activists to working with them, we are still privileged Israelis that can go in the end of the day and sit in the houses and be away from the occupation. And this is the base of our work, because we understand where we come from. And it's very important for us that we won't patronize them and won't approach in a way that above them, because there's a lot of peace movements in Israel did it for many years, or even some international suggestions. They try to tell the Palestinians what are best for them, while Palestinians have their own right and their own way to find what's good for them. And like everybody else, they might do mistakes on the way. But when we do this solidarity work, it doesn't even talk about solution, as I said before. Just talking about providing these people normal life and normal human rights. And as you can see here, we try to reconstruct a house in the same area. People live in this house, in this area, in very simple houses, sometimes in tents. There are big families that living actually still in caves. It's one of the only places where you can see people living in caves. But they live simple life and they're happy with how they live. They just want to live the life. They don't want anything aggressive or any oppression to come towards them. The olive harvest is during the fall, during end of September, mid-September to beginning of November. And this is when we have a lot of attacks and problems with the army. The army asks for Palestinians to show permits when they go and work on their own land. The settlers come down and attack them. So the presence of activists from Israel and from the world is very, very important. Even though it doesn't help, as I showed before, because the army come and take us away. In this case, in a village of Ni'alin, which is a village we've been maybe mostly active in the last year, and I'm going to show all about our all the work we had there in the last year. The land goes all the way to the settlement, and they asked us to escort them because they were afraid of what's going to happen to them, how's the army going to behave. But they got a permit, and we were there. But after an hour or two, there were two kids, a sister and brother, maybe 6 or 8 years old, each one of them. I don't exactly remember. And they started throwing stones on us. And fortunately, they were young and they didn't reach us. But their parents were there, and they totally supported them. They cursed us, and they wished us very horrible things. And we need to be patient in these places, because it's very easy to respond and talk to them, but we just ignored them. And the army wasn't there. They came once in a while, and these settlers were smart enough to stop. But in some places, the settlers are not afraid from the army, because they know that the army will get either the Palestinians away or the activists away, and there's nothing that they will take them away. They stay there and live there. They can always do whatever they want when the army is not there. In this case, it's in Tel Rumeda, which is in Hebron. We went to do an olive harvest, and what happened that 3 or 4 young settlers came down from the Jewish settlement over there, which is one of the most radical settlements you see in the West Bank. These people, what they do in Hebron, they're terrorizing the people, and you just need to go online to see the situation, the history of Hebron. I'm not going to talk about it. But they came and beat up a Palestinian photographer, well known. He's working for one of the big agencies. And we had it on video, and we had it on stills. So we called the police. And what the police did was to take us away from there. As you can see, and they took us all the way to Jerusalem, and for the people who are familiar with it, it's pretty far away. It's 45 minutes ride. They really didn't want us to come back. Because many times, when we come there, we come from the Palestinian side, which is illegal for Israel. It's another way of separation. They're saying in Israel, it's dangerous to Israelis to meet Palestinians, so don't go to the big cities. Though it's very dangerous in villages. But when you go there, when you see the reality, and every person almost has been active in Palestine can vouch it and say that Palestinians are very warm and very welcoming families, and especially when you're in solidarity with them, they will make you feel very comfortable with your presence over there. So we went over there, and it's kind of what happened to us. Fortunately, they arrested 3 people that really rejected. This girl and another 2 guys, they really rejected going to the cars. Unfortunately, we thought that we'll do a solidarity arrest and it will be like 15 of us, but they were smart enough to put us in the police cars and drive us away. Another type of actions we did, and we try to do more frequent, is removing roadblocks. Palestine is the size of the West Bank is the size of Delaware, I think, not much bigger. And for these days, there are 700 roadblocks. 4 of them are manned, and many other of them will be other different concrete instruments. Some of them will be earth mounds with big rocks, boulders inside that preventing driving through there. As I said before, it's preventing from people to getting to their land with a car. In the olive harvest, it's very important. Because what happened, instead of going and working on your land with your car there, you need to drive 50 minutes to get to your land in this particular village. And we succeeded to open this one. We had hundreds of people. The army was there. They didn't do anything. And actually, this is from a different village, but this is back to the same village. This is outside Kalkilia, in the village of Tulkarm, in the village of Sufa. And when we ended the action, the Palestinians want to march back, when they're allowed to march back. But the army decided to punish them for doing this kind of non-violent act. And they told them, you need to go from around, you're not allowed to go from here. So of course there are some yellings and really not much of pushing because nothing happened, but they start to push us after 5-10 minutes. And they start throwing stun grenades and shooting rubber-coated bullets very quickly. What so-called rubber bullets are metal instruments that are covered either with plastic or rubber. And as you can see later, if they hit you in some places, it's lethal. So 12 of us, Palestinian and Israelis, and I don't think internationals in this case, were injured. And while we were waiting for a medic, the officer came and started yelling at us to going away, but we couldn't walk. I got a bullet in each leg and one on my butt, and I couldn't walk. It's not that I got it inside my body, but you're getting your muscle is so stiff and it's a trauma that you not happily walk away. And he continues throwing stun grenades on us while we were sitting there, telling us to get away from there. But we refused to get, because of this behavior, we refused to get any treatment from the Israelis. They usually don't treat us, as cases that I'll tell you later. And because we weren't seriously injured, we went back to Israel, and this is where we checked it. I'm going to show you a movie now. This movie, because of the more younger crowd here, or more liberal, I'll show something that's a bit louder than what I show in other places, but and less depressing. But I think you're going to enjoy it anyway. And I'll give you a link to the other movie when we finish. You hear them? You do hear the music. Okay. Fine. It's not over yet. It's just a break.
המשפט העליון פסק שאפשר להיעלם, ושיש הבטחה ברורה שתושבי תקומה יוכלו להמשיך ולאבד את האדמות שלהם. על סמך הפסיקה הזו, אנחנו ניסינו בחודשים האחרונים להכניס אנשים לארץ, וקיווינו שזה בפירוש לא עובדים במשך שבועיים על תיאום של יום אחד שבו היו אפשר להיכנס, ואז מגיעים לשם, אחד כן יכול להיכנס, השני לא יכול להיכנס, השעות נהנות, וכל זה על יום עבודה אחד, במקומות שזה בעצם להבין אותם כל יום. וזה אנשים שזה הלימוד שלהם, מה פתאום שיהיה צריך את כל התהליך הזה כדי לתת את הלימוד שאני מדעת מילה היום, ולא הייתה להוריד את המדר כך שתהיה גישה לאנשים אל הלימוד שלהם.
It's very important. These are not the army. This is the guard of the settlement. They have all the permission to do whatever they want. two things I want to say, a few things I want to say about the movie. One, you can see that when you see it later in the second movie, it's usually a lot of Palestinians can speak Hebrew, while most of Israelis can't speak Arabic, unfortunately. One of the reasons because I don't remember the exact number, the exact percentage of Palestinians who spent time in Israeli jails and had a lot of time to learn Hebrew. I think it's almost a fifth of the population, 667, spent time. It's like 700,000 Palestinians, I think, went through the Israeli prisons. The second thing, it's unfortunately we can't do such actions that often, and the army learn our tactics. And in this village, what happens, the guy who organized the non-violent resistance, he got arrested, and they put him onto administrative arrest. It means that you don't need to have any evidence against him, and they can hold him because the Israeli security service saying that he's dangerous. And he's spending already 7 months in jail just because they're saying that he's dangerous. And he spent time in jail for so-called terrorist acts that they framed him 10 years ago, and they tried to go again in a trial on the same charges. But this is an Israeli justice system. So these are pictures from the action. It's saying here it's not security, it's land grabbing. I mentioned in one of my first slides the road that it's only for Jewish people. This is road 443. It used to be the main road on west to Ramallah that connects the villages to Ramallah. And since 2000 or 2001, it's restricted for Palestinians to go on it. And one of our actions that was actually pretty successful a year ago, more than a year ago, we succeeded to block this road. This is a road that many Israelis that are not settlers driving from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv and from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, because maybe the best infrastructure in Israel on this road. And they don't really understand that going on a stolen land, and it's restricted to other people, to the people that own the land over there. So we succeeded to make a short or not that long traffic jam for 15-20 minutes. And fortunately the army was in the end of the traffic jam, and they were stuck there. So we had 20 minutes to wait for them. But we hand flyers to these people that they understand why it's there, and we told them Palestinian with a car will wait a few hours a day in a checkpoint while you're waiting only for a short time here, and we try to show you what it is that Palestinians going through every day. Of course the army came and was very violent. This is a picture, or these two pictures where I mentioned good friend of ours, which is the International Solidarity Movement. They are a big part of the struggle. They have activists, sometimes they have less, sometimes they have more, that stay in Palestine and doing similar things that we do, but they also live in Palestine, so they're doing a lot of daily things, and they observing and reporting about army invasions, army aggressions in many places. So they are a big part of the struggle. And for you who probably heard about Rachel Corrie, who tried to prevent a house demolition in Gaza in 2003, and she was ran over by the bulldozer. There was another member, which I think it's Brian Ivory, but I'm not sure about the name, that was shot from a machine gun from a tank while he was protecting kids in a curfew, I think in, I don't know, I think Nablus, but I'm not sure. But what we do usually, changing the subject, is demonstration every week. Every Friday we have at least 3 villages that we join in a demonstration against the fence, or the wall. It can be a place where the wall is being constructed already, it's already there, or places where it's only under construction. And what it's important to understand that Palestinians oppose any idea of the wall as long as it's on Palestinian land. And in some villages, what the Supreme Court did, like these villages, they moved it a few miles towards Israel, but it's still on Palestinian land. And you could have seen how wide these fences can be. They can be, they have a barbed wires, and they have a dead man zones, and they have the fence, then they have a road for the Israeli security forces, and there's another barbed wire. So it's almost 150 feet long. So if you move this fence into another point in the land, you're destroying so many acres just by moving it. So the Palestinians are opposing the idea that it's on their land. If you want to build a true security walls, that it's what you believe in, do it on Israeli land. You don't need to do it on Palestinian land. But we oppose the idea of separation, so it doesn't matter for us. So in this village, they called us and told us that they want to do the first demonstration after a few years, which they didn't do, to oppose the idea of moving this fence. And we talked with them, and we talked with the popular committee, which we do it in every village. These are the people we work with before we do any action or any demonstration. And we came there, and unfortunately, as you can see, the army found out about it in advance. They knew that we're going to come. I don't need to tell you the ways, but Palestine is under, as you saw before, the eye of the Israeli army. They threatening people to harm their families and the people, so the people need to collaborate, otherwise they really suffer. It's something that they can't, we can't really hide it when it's big, and we don't hide this demonstration. It's not a direct action when we need, like when we block the road, to hide it. Something that we publicly doing, and the publicity of having Israelis there or internationals might de-escalate the situation. It used to be, not anymore. So we succeeded to walk through the armies that waited inside the village, and maybe because it was led by women, we succeeded to get pretty close to the fence. And we stand there for a while, an hour or two, and nothing happened, and both sides went to the other direction. It was a peaceful day. But the next demonstration, what happened, the army waited for us, but this time they weren't tolerant. And they waited and didn't, from far away, they started shooting tear gas and rubber-coated bullets. And this is how the demonstrations in all places are facing, except, well, most places. The army don't care about non-violent struggles. They're most afraid of it, as you can see later, because they don't really have an answer for people that are express a way for freedom in non-violent. It's easier to them to make such reaction and then say it was violent, and then when you try to show that the non-violent struggle is violent. And yes, many times when the army becoming violent like this, there will be a response from the Palestinian youth and they will throw stones. But this is not part of the march that are non-violent. When they let us march non-violently, nobody will throw stones. So now I'm going to show you the village of Nialin, because one of the reasons I came to this tour, it's this village. This village will start being involved since May. They start constructing the wall over there. Since 1948, the village lost 75% of the land. And they never resist it. They accept the idea of whatever the Israeli represent, and they peacefully accept it. But when they've been told that they're going to have a fence now that's going to take a third of what left from their land, they decided to do demonstration and to try to do non-violent struggle. And many times it was successful. We succeeded to walk towards the bulldozers and to run them away and stop the works for a few hours. This is a picture that I mentioned, caterpillars. Some of you are familiar with caterpillars, some of you are less. Caterpillar are the providers of heavy tools to the Israeli army and the Israeli authorities. They are responsible for house demolitions. They're responsible when the forces went into Gaza. They have the armed bulldozers who ran over houses and make place for the Israeli forces. And there was an all-long campaign telling them to stop providing heavy tools. And this started when Rachel Corrie was run over by one of them. And the response of Caterpillar was that they're not responsible for the clients, what the client's doing with the tools. And it's very easy to close your eyes and when you're selling things. But we see them very responsible, because if they stop doing it, and actually this is a way to start making some pressure on Israel, start to make pressure from outside, maybe there will be some kind of change, and Israel will start to think instead of being automatically like a herd. And nowadays, the board for the stimulus program, I don't know, you call it stimulus programs, that Obama nominated, one of them is the CEO of Caterpillar. And I think this is one of the things that Americans can do directly, is to start to make pressure about this guy, because he's responsible for these things, and he cares about money, not human lives. So he's going to be responsible for stimulus, and what he cares about is profits, and not human values, and not human rights. Then this is a voice that needs to be heard against it. So this is one of the things Americans can do, and probably later on, probably in the question and answer, people ask me, I'll tell about more things that people can do. But and also, in my point of view, he fired 20,000 Caterpillar employees 2 weeks ago. So I don't know how can you be in the same places when this is your ideology. The tools are guarded usually by private guards. They have only live ammunition, unfortunately, rifles and guns. And they never shot at us. They shot to the air, they shot towards our legs, but they never hit us. Usually we face the army with the tear gas and stun grenades and rubber bullets, as I mentioned before. Many times we couldn't succeed we never succeeded to get and stop uprooting the trees. Usually instead of the movies that I showed you before, I show a movie that show how we try to prevent uprooting trees in different places, in other places. I will tell you how can you find it online. I can tell you that in this moment, when I took this picture, I never felt so frustrated and depressed in my life when you see that even what you're doing, you can't stop. And you see all the white trees, they're going to be uprooted as well. Or the army and the Israeli authorities saying that it's going to be removed and replanted. You can't remove and replant an olive tree in the middle of the Israeli summer or the Middle Eastern summer. So no water to water it. And this is based only on rain. You can't bring anything over there to water it. It will be alive again. This is one of the settlements that have been built on the land of Nialin. This settlement, the settlement nearby, was built during the 90s, mostly during a Labour Party government. So it's very important to understand when people talk about peace and people think that Labour Party leaders can do better work, this is how reality is. The person who led the war in Gaza is the Labour Party leader. So some people will ask me later what I think about the election. I think it doesn't matter. It might, the bad thing about it is that the people that are going to be in the government are mostly coming from the settlement movement. But you can see what happened when it's not from the settlement movement. It's not a bigger difference. So what you also see in this picture, that most of the land you see closer to the settlement is going to be confiscated by the wall, or the fence over there. And we succeeded to make an interview with the mayor of this settlement, and he said, yes, I know, we're taking the land and we're going to expand the settlement. So if they're going to expand the settlement, it doesn't matter if it's for houses, or some people say for a cemetery. This is not for security. People say it's for security. This is not security. They could done the fence on this dirt road you see already, but they decided to take further of the land to extend the settlement. And I think it was the chief of staff, the head of the army in Israel, who publicly said a few months ago that the wall is a political tool, it's not a security tool. And he said it, and it was in the Israeli newspapers. And of course, after a few days, nobody talked about it. But if you go online and you look for it, you probably find it in one way or another. And if the army believes in this thing, and this is what, again, people say publicly in some point, you can understand how political this wall is. And I don't have maps and documents about it, but go online and look on a few websites and you see how much it cuts for Palestinian land. And you can see how they try to break it into small pieces. We used to get close to the soldiers and to confront them in one way or another. Many times we just yelled and then start throwing stun grenades and tear gas, beating up people, arresting and beating up people and grabbing them away. We tried to block the path, the route was supposed to be, and put some bulldozers, but another Caterpillar too came and they moved it pretty quickly. You can see, maybe you can see on the, no, you can't see it on the screen, but there was a fence that had been put up over there, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, that they put, and we succeeded to move part of it, but since this time we didn't get to the bulldozer, we didn't succeed to get them away. Even a women demonstration that's supposed to be the most non-violent symbol was facing brutality from the army, and women fainted because of the tear gas. And some people have been beaten up over there. And after a few months, what they decided to do in this village was to set up closer. They decided nobody goes in or out from the village. and they blocked all the exits. They put earth mounds, they put soldiers over there. And we tried to march from a few villages, and the villages around started to have solidarity demonstrations. And we succeeded to get into the village one day. And maybe this is not part of the non-violent struggle, it's part of the occupation, part of the oppression. And when somebody invades your village, it will be a response, it will be a self-defense response from the local young people. They usually throw stones. And even though we're not participating in these throwing stones, we try to be in these places because many times people are not as violent as it sounds, and the army uses it as an excuse to be very violent. So a presence of Israeli or internationals, even if we're not succeeding to prevent casualties, we be able to try to give evidence later on to tell what was the truth and what was happening over there. So for us it was very important to go there. What you see here, some people ask me if it's a white phosphorus from Gaza. No, fortunately it's not, and not yet. This is a new machine that shoots 64 canisters of tear gas, which is create a nice rain from the skies. The Palestinian calls them the new fireworks because it's something aesthetic about it, as long as you're far away from it. But it's horrible because it's creating a field. It's creating a cloud in the size of a football field. And when you shoot it inside the village and not on the fields, a lot of houses get it inside, and to get the tear gas outside of the house, it's very hard. And they're regularly doing it. They're waiting these days. They're waiting in the outskirts of the village, and whenever we start to march, they start shooting at us, and they're shooting directly, and people getting hurt because they're shooting against the regulations. In this case, as I said, there were confrontation. They tried to barricade the road that the army won't go inside because they shoot into houses. We had cases of a house that during the closure been burned down because of a tear gas canister. We have bullet holes in windows. We have cars that have been destroyed. Chickens were shot because it was fun for the soldiers when they walk in the streets. And nobody hear about it. And we couldn't do much because every person that walked out in a curfew being shot. So we had to find a very dangerous way from around to get in, but we succeeded to get in. And in the end, what stopped the army from using this tactic was the solidarity of the villagers around. They preferred to deal with one village that demonstrates than 5 villages because they don't have enough forces. They didn't have. Maybe now they would use more to deal with it. But in some points, the barbed wire I tried to show you earlier, they put it after the closure. They put it on the land that we can't cross it. It was 3 barbed wire, 2 on the bottom and 1 on the top, creating a 6 feet wide and 6 feet tall barbed wire. And the kids, 4 kids, between the age of 10 to 14, came and looked at it, and maybe they shaked it, but they can't move it. It's huge and it's nailed to the ground. But a border police jeep came, and when they saw it, they started running away because the border police shot tear gas canister and rubber-coated bullets. And one of the kids, Ahmed Musa, 10 years old, while he was running away, he dropped his sandal. So he went to pick it up, and while picking it up, he got a live bullet in his forehead, and his brothers and friends carried him to the village, but there was no chance to save him. He died immediately, and he was 10 years old. And he definitely didn't threaten anybody, and they shot him with live bullet from less than 80 meters. And during his funeral, and what happened, they took him to the hospital in Ramallah, so they had a convoy coming with the cars back to the village. Instead of the army keeping away and trying to avoid confrontation, they waited in the entrance of the village, throwing stun grenades on the convoy, tear gas, and people went in. And after the funeral, they continued to go inside with jeeps and to make provocation. And the action was, of course, in this day, some kind of confrontation. And this guy, Yusuf Amir, was standing in the alley. He was watching what's happening. It was near his house. And he was standing a few feet away from the stone thrower. He was alone, or with friends where there's no stone throwing. And the jeep stopped less than 20 feet from him. They have these small holes through the window, and they just can take the barrel of the gun out, and they shot him with rubber bullets. And when 2 rubber bullets hit your head, you brain dead for 5 days, and then you die. And this is a picture I don't like to put that long because it's not a nice one. We have much worse picture of the little kid and this guy. This was my first funeral in Palestine. For people who've been active in Palestine, you know how common it is to see these funerals. And the village was really shocked. I was shocked. I knew the little kid because he used to come after the demonstration and pick up the tear gas canisters because they sell it for metal merchandise. It's the only way for them to make money for these little kids. So they get a huge bag and get like $1 for it. So we used to see him, and this guy I knew by his face. I didn't know him as much as the other kid. But it was a shock. It was a shock to the village. It was a shock for us. And they didn't want to bury more kids. And the elders, the popular committee, talked with the young people, told them, you need to calm down. Otherwise, more people will die here. They tried to break our spirit, and we don't want people to die. The struggle is not worth your life. You need to stay alive. The future is be with you one day. And this was around August. And September, as I said, and October is during the olive harvest and the Ramadan, well, other way around. And the army was actually behaving okay, and they calmed down and they relaxed and they didn't do much. And we had demonstrations and just waited and shot tear gas. But it continued to be violence. And they continued to invade the village. But the main thing was that since, well, what's written on this sign before I continue is what they put on the fence. It's mortal danger military zone. Any person who passes or damages the fence endangers their life. And in this village, it's literally what happened. And during the non-violent struggle against the wall, 17 people already been murdered by the forces. I'm not talking about all the other thousands who died because of the occupation. I'm talking about people that are part of the non-violent struggle and what we participate. So we continue to go there, and we're facing this demonstration at least once a week. But during the Gaza, well, when I wasn't there, I was already in the States. Because of the Gaza war, they can use more violence, be more brutal. And what you see here is just a tear gas, rubber bullet injury. He didn't get into the leg, even though we had cases where it did enter the leg. I don't have pictures of how to show you how much it escalated. They start using snipers in own villages, snipers that use live ammunition. These are small bullets, but these bullets, which if they hit you in a soft tissue, you can seriously injured. As I found out in this village, 2 young guys, again in the age of 17, been shot in the head and died. And this was after one of the demonstrations. One had a bullet in his back and one had a bullet in his forehead. And the soldiers claimed that we were under a threat because of the stones. Even if you're threatened by the stones, which are usually pretty much protected, there are many other places to shoot people than their head, especially not on the back of the head before you kill somebody. So we don't even know what happened to the soldier who shot the 10-year-old kid. I don't even want to think about this case. He was arrested, house arrest for a few days, but probably released. We usually being more detained for longer time than them. The spirit of the village is going on, and this, even now, in Israel it's Friday, there is a demonstration over there, and they will continue. And as long as they continue, we'll be there with them, even though our presence doesn't help anymore, because it used to be that Israelis' international presence prevent some of these weapons. We'll still go there because it's not only anymore about solidarity with a global cause we believe in, solidarity with friends we have there, solidarity with people that we know, it's solidarity with people that know well, I lost my English and my Hebrew. They deserve this freedom, and it's not about a liberation movement for a state or for a solution. It's a liberation to have normal human lives and normal human rights. A normal life, when you go to school, you're not being arrested by the army, or when you go to work on your land, you don't being shot by soldiers, or settlers don't burn your fields. So these are the struggles that, as long as it happens, we'll join it. And hopefully, with the new government or any other government, we'll be able to do it. It's getting harder and harder, but we'll be there, because as I said, it's personally for us. And it's not anymore about the global cause that we believe in anyway, it's about the personal contact. I'm going to show you a movie now. After the curfew and the closure, we succeeded to bring 70 Israelis to this village to demonstrate and to march towards the construction sites. Israelis from all age. We have members in the age of 70 that are going to these demonstrations. Actually, the movie you're going to see, it's a 70-year-old guy who comes every week, at least for one demonstration. He takes videos. he's the last one to be afraid of the soldiers. He's crazy. And he got rubber bullet a few months ago in his leg, and we had to, well, I didn't take it out. I'm a street medic, so I just put a bandage and we took it to the hospital. This was in Bil'in. In this, he got 2 stun grenades that pierced both of his eardrums, and it's still going on. His family are terrified, but he said, well, there's nothing else I can do. And it's a reality. When we are in Israel and we are there, we are responsible for it, and we can't avoid going there, not only because of the personal things that we said, it's because as long as we're there, we need to be part of it. I'll show you this picture first. This is the live bullets they use. It might be very small, but as I said, it's very dangerous. This is the second movie I want to show you, and after it I'll show you a short set of pictures. I will translate during the movie. As I said, this was a very big demonstration, not what we usually have. Most of the white smoke you see, it's tear gas, and most of the bangs you hear are the stun grenades. Stun grenades very loud, and if it doesn't land on you, it's kind of okay. But it's a heavy metal things, and you can see it's also make a flash. So we had a guy with flash in front of his eyes. He was blinded for a day, but he's okay. This guy with the yellow or white shirt here is the owner of the land, and he argued with the soldier that this is his land, this is his home, and he has a right to be there. And he told the soldier, you should go away, not me, and I will talk a bit about him when we finish the movie, so just remember him. What he just said, that this is another landowner, and he said that even when the people of Nealin have the right to do peaceful demonstrations, And even when they do it, the army behaving very brutal, and he actually said they're behaving like terrorists. The soldiers and the officers of the border police, this is not the army, it's the border police who go in there. There was a big fear that the army going to invade the village, so they barricaded the streets. Fortunately, they didn't invade this time. I'm going to translate these things when it's done. What he just said, that he was beaten up with a wooden baton during the demonstration, and while the guy was beating up, he was beaten up on the knee, and the baton stick was broken. So he went to another soldier and picked up a new one and continued beating him up. And he also beat up the people who tried to evacuate him from there. And some of you might heard about the policy in the first Intifada when the Prime Minister said he should break their arms and legs. And he quoting this and saying, maybe this is what the army trying to do this time. Unfortunately, what happened after it, and what I told you, that they don't try to break arms and legs, they try to kill people. And this was a few weeks before the two guys died, and it's many months before the two others died. I think the last thing I'm going to show you from this village is the 27th of January is the International Memorial Day for the Jewish Holocaust. And I hope as a news freak and news addict, I opened the Israeli news. And what I saw was this: that the village of Nealin holds an Holocaust exhibition. I don't know for how many of you are aware of Holocaust memorial things in the Palestinian side. They have enough tragedies that they are dealing with. And of course they need to accept the tragedy of the Israelis and the Jewish people. But this village, who've been underneath all this violence, held this exhibition. And the guy who put this up was the land owner, the first one I show you. He's a good friend of mine, and I wish I could bring him here with my tour, but he doesn't have a permit to get out. He actually doesn't. He's been arrested. He's not allowed to demonstrate anymore because he led the demonstrations, but he led it in a very non-violent way. When he got beaten up from one of the soldiers in a different demonstration, the soldier the officer lost or dropped his gun, and he picked up the gun and gave it back to the soldier and told him, "Look, I had the power and I had your power, but I'm giving it back to you because I don't believe in violence. And maybe now you can just let me walk here and we're not going to do anything." And of course they continued to beat him up because soldiers can't admit their mistakes. And this is a guy that also got shot by rubber bullets while holding his hands up by the same officer. And he's one of my good friends there, and actually heroes, because he continued to believe in the non-violent struggle after all these things that are happening in this village. And you can see what he did this is 2 weeks after two guys were killed in his village. He's holding a Holocaust exhibition. And he said that to reach a dialogue, you need to understand each other's tragedies, the history of the people of each side. And for me, it was amazing that he did such a thing. And in this particular village, but all places we go, you feel very part of it, and they really welcome you. But now I'm going to show the last part. This was Nealin. I mentioned it's a fundraising because we're dealing with legal costs. So if Nialin was the reason why we started, we decided that every person, Palestinians, had been arrested and being charged and asked for support for to cover his legal costs, we'll provide him with a lawyer, because we're working with one of the best, if not the best lawyers that deal in these issues of Palestinian rights and arrests. And before I left, which was beginning of December, there were already 40 cases in this village of people that had been arrested and charged. People are being picked up from bed in the middle of the night. There are army invasions almost on a daily basis now. And the youngest one, I think it's 13 or 14 years old, that's being charged. And I think there are many more since then. The second reason why we're doing this fundraising is what I'll show you now. It's a consequences of demonstrating and doing stuff in Israel. So what we did a couple of times, or maybe 3-4 times, was we declared a closed military zone in Tel Aviv. And we blocked a road or two. We put these signs, and people had to face for a few minutes what is the occupation, what is to be behind a roadblock. We have young members, the seniors, last year of high school, who refused to go to the army. They refused to be occupiers, as it's written on this banner. And we do solidarity demonstration with them when they go to the army and refusing. We go with them in the morning, and when they're in jail, we stand outside of jail and also demonstrating for them. Gaza was a big thing, not only, of course in Gaza it was the worst, but when every opposition to what happened in Gaza and Israel faced a very brutal response from the police and very aggressive oppression from the authorities. So this is the second demonstration we did, because in the first one we only wanted to march. People got arrested, people got beaten up, and people just marched. It's not anything else. Nobody tried to do anything bad. And this is how it's faced in Israel. But the population that suffered the most from this aggression was the Israeli Palestinian citizens, Arabs that live in Israel and have Israeli citizens. 700 of them being arrested and 600 of them going to be charged, when third of them are minors. And what happened that when the second Intifada started, there was a lot of confrontation between young Palestinian Israelis and the authorities. And this time people just wanted to demonstrate. But they didn't decide to prevent any sign of alternative or opposition to this war. So they arrested everybody. It took the peace camp in Israel is small. It's not really existing, and the few organizations that working for solidarity with Palestinians. Well, we started very small, and it took more than 10 days to the so-called peace movement in Israel to wake up and say that it's a wrong war. We are demonstrating since they started the siege on Gaza, and we believe that the siege on Gaza is bad. But of course, when we had something horrible like this, we walked there, and it's written here, war is a terror of the state. Stop murdering civilians, and this is what we believe. We believe that bombing civilians is terrorism. It doesn't matter what side of the border it comes from. As long as you're aiming on civilians, and you know there are civilians, there is no way to justify it. We had a memorial, it's a rally in Jaffa, the southern part of Tel Aviv, where the Arab population. It's written Gaza in Arabic. One of the actions we tried to do, it was a die down in the entrance of an Israeli Air Force base in Tel Aviv. And it's written on the signs, there's kids' blood on your hand. And the police found out about it. They knew that we are coming. So they arrested people. But first, they let them stay on the ground, that they have evidence that we blocked the road. They arrested everybody, including the people who are sitting on the sidewalk. The people on the road, when they've been told to move, they moved. I don't have the movie here, and it's not translated, so I didn't want to show you, because we don't have time, but everybody was arrested, and for maybe not the first time, but one of the only times that people have been detained and arrested for the whole weekend. Usually we are arrested for a few hours or maybe a night. And the state attorney said that she blamed us for demoralizing the spirit of the people and the soldiers during a war. We're happy to do it, and we'll continue to do it if it will prevent some killings. But we knew they're moving to a new step, because before the war they already start to send us calls for court. Many of them that been 2 years old, and we already have a couple of dozen of them. But we also had this issue of people, and I was here in the States, and I got this, and I waited for, they have a second discussion in court, and I waited to see what happened in the discussion. But instead of it, I got an email saying that the police visited my house and raided my room. It's almost as messy as usual, but not that much. The bed is not on the wall, though, it's on the floor. They didn't look for me, I can't take the credit. They looked for another activist who'd been part of many things, and he didn't do anything illegal in terms of, I don't know, conspiring. We're doing things that are illegal because we don't believe in the occupation law. But we didn't try to organize any kind of resistance in Israel that will be dangerous or violent. So they looked for him because he put his name on to call him in different events. This is what we think. We don't really know. And actually, he was arrested while they did it because he was in court. And a few days later, coming back from a demonstration, undercover detectives picked him up into a car and took him to the police station in the middle of the street when he was walking alone. They released him very quickly. They did confiscate stuff. They confiscated my old computer, which don't have anything on it. My memory cards for my camera, which is, this is actually horrible because they're very expensive. Some other stuff. But they confiscated around 50 shirts of Anarchists Against the Wall. So the new fashion in the Tel Aviv police is the Anarchists Against the Wall shirt, which unfortunately I can't show you today. It's mostly the design on the front of these shirts that if any one of you want to buy it, but it's, again, all the thing we're doing tonight, all the money that you donated, it's for legal costs. When I left, I thought we're facing around $40,000 debt to a lawyer, but I found out that it's actually $120,000. It's not a blackmail or something. If you don't have money or anything, don't put money. We come from our anarchist values, and just if you do have money, it will really, this is what will help us to go on. And we're facing more and more aggression, as you can see. We have 100 cases in court. We probably have more in some point. And hopefully when I go back, they're not going to stop me in the airport. But they do have my stuff, and I guess they will question me in some point. I will tell them that I just have shirts. I don't know what. But that's all. This is all I can show tonight, because I still need to be in Vancouver tomorrow at noontime or a bit later. Vancouver, BC, not Vancouver, Washington. So now we have time for question and answer. I'm just going to drink water. And you're welcome to ask whatever you want. I will hopefully answer whatever I can. And I hope it's opened your eyes and you saw some of the things I can say. I hope you enjoy it, but it's not about joy here. It's about a struggle that's ongoing for Palestinian freedom, and we try to be part of it and to help them as much as we can. And again, it's only where we are called. So I'm going to have my water, and you guys hopefully enjoy it.
You've been listening to a presentation by Shachaf Polakow of the Israeli group Anarchists Against the Wall. In a moment, we'll return to the question and answer session from the program. This presentation was part of a North American speaking tour launched by Anarchists Against the Wall to educate people in the United States and Canada about the struggle in Palestine-Israel and to raise money for the mounting legal costs of their actions. The presentation in Portland was sponsored by Students United for Palestinian Equal Rights. To find out more about Anarchists Against the Wall and about how you can support their work, please visit their website at www.awalls.org. And now we return to the question and answer session from the presentation.
The guy here asked me what is more effective in the States. So what I truly believe that can be effective is, first of all, to be more active in this issue. And this can be in different things. As I said, international pressure is what will make the change in the end. The people in Israel, I'm not going to explain why, they don't believe in this change. I was part of it. always feels a victim. So the pressure needs to come from outside. And when I'm talking about pressure is, as I said, for example, the CEO of Caterpillar, it shouldn't be representing the people. Or another thing was, you supporting by your taxes and by the money that goes to Israel goes mostly to the occupation and to the army. So you need to start and doubt it. People, less than, I don't know how many, 18% of the people in the States know that actually money goes to Israel. Nobody knows. So only 18% knows about it. So if you tell more people where the money go to and what it's doing and what we believe, it's only amplifying the hate. Because you can tell, you can make the government here or the president here to make conditions to Israel to get its money. And if you make more pressure from inside the state, it might change. I provide you a few websites. If you go to Anarchists Against the Wall, you hear what we're doing. Electronic Intifada is one of the websites that tell you news about happening in Palestine. Active Stills, which is my collective, my photography collective, it's pretty much free for use. You can use the pictures. We go a few times a week to Palestine sometimes, and you can see more pictures that you can use. Definitely if it's for electronic use, you can use it as much as you want. But you need to let us know that we can follow, because we don't want people use it and manipulate it to the other side for the political map. Not that we truly believe that they shouldn't use it, but at least that we should know about it. And just be more aware and tell more people and look at more resources to know what's happening in Palestine.
The next member of the audience asked the speaker to talk about the Refusnik movement in Israel and about interactions between Anarchists Against the Wall and other peace groups like the Refusniks.
Well, the Refusnik movement in Israel history is longer than the anarchists, at least as organized. And mostly now what you have of refuseniks are people that are refusing to serve in the army when they start. When the first army, the basic army base service. So it's around the age of 18. It has waves like many other movements. This year we had 8 people that publicly went out and refused to go to the army. There are some reserve soldiers that sometimes refuse, but it doesn't go out to the media. With the young people, we usually don't have a problem, because there are a lot of them, especially this year, were participating in part of our group. With the older people, what I found problematic was they keep a military hierarchy in their organization, and we don't want, like, it's not fun to work with them. Like, if you didn't be, like, I was in the army, but I wasn't an officer, so if there are officers over there, they treat me like a simple soldier. Like, I'm not refusing the army to continue an army policy, but and it's happened in some of them, not all of them, and it's actually broke apart some of this organization, unfortunately. But this is Refusnik. What was the second one?
8 people?
There are 8 people this year.
Only 8?
Yeah. But it's easy to understand. It's very easy to get out of the Israeli army. Like, you don't need to do a political announcement and go to jail. What you can do is find a psychiatric way, like mental way, health way. There are many ways. Only 65% of the male population in Israel go to the army. Some of them because of religion, some of them because they are non-Jews, but only 65%. And only 49% of them finish a full 3 years army service. So we're getting to a state that only 49 doing a full army service. So when some young kids decide to refuse to go to the army, they do it politically. But some people don't want to go into the public and go through this kind of process and go to jail for many months. They usually go to 3 weeks to jail and go home for the weekend. Then they've been charged or been convicted for another 3 weeks. And it depends who breaks first, the army or them. Yeah, this is about the Refusniks.
The next audience member referred back to the speaker's comment that he had served in the Israeli military.
You want to ask? I can also.
You get personal.
No, it's fine. I can also say why, and it was different times, and I.
Did you serve in the West Bank?
I did serve in Palestinian territories.
Where?
Exactly.
Maybe I saw you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it was in '98. 99, and I wasn't on checkpoint, so most definitely you didn't see me. I believed in the peace process. I grew up in believing that the democracy in Israel is doing a good job, and the peace process it started with hope. I think there were many mistakes on both sides, and the Israeli side responsible for many of them because of the expansion of settlement mostly. During the peace process, almost they doubled the amount of settlers in the West Bank. And there was not much of support for refuseniks. I've been considering it a lot, but I truly believe that in a democratic process, when I'm in the part that's leading a peace process or supporting a peace process, I shouldn't refuse to do, because I don't believe in it anymore, but this is what I believed 10 years ago. Where
did you serve?
Well, I served near Jericho in the Nachal, if you know. So I've been half of my time in the army. I was a combatant medic, which mostly did training, and the second I meant to do the second half of it as an educator, because it's what I'm doing, working with kids. But unfortunately, the second Intifada started and they called us back, and I was near Jericho for a few times, and then I've been in a settlement for 7 months in Negohot, which is pretty bad settlement, and we didn't do anything over there, but the presence of a settlement is bad enough. So, and later on we found out how radical they are. But the thing is that if you refuse to go to the army in your army service, every time you spend in jail, you need to add to your army service. If I spend 1 month in jail, I need to do 3 years in 1 month. And when you get closer to your release, you understand that you better be released and do what you can than just carry on going in the army. This is what very selfish thing, but this is what I believe in the days. I totally understand. Yeah.
The next member of the audience asked the speaker what forms of resistance, what kinds of actions are the most effective in opposing the occupation.
I truly believe that the non-violent, if reaching mass numbers and being a participant, it will have a lot of success. This is the thing that Israelis can't deal with. You see what happened in Gaza when most of the dead people, people who have been murdered, were civilians. It's very dangerous to do a mass non-violent movement, because what will happen is that the army will be brutal and people will die. But it will be more effective. And I think every time Palestinians use violence, even if you justify it, Israel used it as an excuse to be much more brutal. And the non-violent struggle, it's the only places where Palestinians actually won some of the cases in court. So even though the Israelis didn't do anything and didn't change the reality after they had to, this is a method that I truly believe can change things. It doesn't mean that there are not other ways. I just think this is the best way that you can change it.
What about the legal means? Court cases?
There are few lawyers and organizations that are working on legal things, but the system is so much, the legal system is so much supporting the occupation. It's very hard. Look, the village of Nialin, who are losing a third of their land, this is after the Supreme Court already approved it. And what happened in other cases that they won't go and pay payments for people that take their land. They're saying they will have access. It's complicated because the legal process, sometimes we find it efficient, but mostly it's been too much one-sided. Also, it's very expensive, and Palestinians can afford it. It's really, if you go to the Supreme Court, you need, I think, to start with 20,000 shekels, which is a year of work for Palestinians. First here and then there.
The next member of the audience asked about American journalists who are covering the conflict and who have served in the Israeli military. After doing your service in the Israeli military, you are still in the reserves until you're in your mid-40s. Is it reasonable to assume that such journalists are still serving in the Israeli military reserves?
First of all, it's easy to get out of the reserve. If he doesn't live in Israel anymore, he doesn't need to do it. And if he volunteered in the army, he probably don't need to do reserves, but I'm not clear about it. But he can if he wants. almost every Jewish wants to go back in almost every age and volunteer in one way or another in the army. Yeah, it's not, even if it's not combatant, they can cook, they can do other stuff.
The next member of the audience asked what the response has been by Palestinian militant organizations to the work of Anarchists Against the Wall.
It's complicated. It depends on the village. Depends on the whole history of the village we're working with. The places will be totally accepted by everybody in the village. There are villages and places where Israelis can't go in yet because you need somebody to vouch you. How can they know that I'm not pretending to be part of my group and I'm not a security service, like from the security service? So there are places that it's hard and not every member can go to every place. But the village of Nealin has a Hamas mayor, and they are welcoming any Israeli thing, and they did the Holocaust exhibition, and they have relationships with Israelis which are not only from Anarchists Against the Wall. So for the Hamas, maybe it's not the militant side, it's a more political charity side. I can't talk about other groups like the Jihad Islamic or other places, but I know with Hamas members that I met in few places that, like most Palestinians, if you talk practically about staying alive and being non-violent, this is what they want. And this is what I believe that most Israelis in the end will understand that both sides want. So this is my comment about a bit about the Hamas that I can make.
The next member of the audience asked about the recent elections in Israel and what implications they might have for these issues.
Crap. It was crap. I can't really talk that much. I wasn't there. I succeeded to run away in the second elections in a row. And as an anarchist, it's the best solution. But I can say that if what the people have been elected and the majority of the parliament is coming from the radical right wing, the majority of it now. It's not only Lieberman, it's not only the Likud saying they're not even for two-state solution. They don't believe the Palestinians should have a state. They believe about economic peace, which is something that I don't know what it is, economic peace. It's a higher class oppressing the lower class, but trying to have peace. I don't know.
It's a peaceful oppression. It's like a blanket.
So what it seems now that the Likud will have the prime minister, which is Netanyahu. Lieberman, which is a nationalist party, or even almost fascist in the way they talk, will join. Another 7 seats will join by pure settlers movement that they already have parliamentary assistants that are really radical settlers from Hebron that are going to be in the parliament. And then probably Shas, which is an Orthodox movement that is it's more right-wing these days. But welcome.
You've been listening to a presentation by Shachaf Polakow of the Israeli group Anarchists Against the Wall. This presentation was part of a North American speaking tour launched by Anarchists Against the Wall to educate people in the United States and Canada about the struggle in Palestine-Israel and to raise money for the mounting legal costs of their actions. To find out more about Anarchists Against the Wall and about how you can support their work, please visit their website at www.awalls.org. This presentation was produced by pdxjustice Media Productions. To find out more about our work, please visit our website at www.pdxjustice.org. You'll find on-demand streaming video and audio programs featuring speakers such as Kevin Phillips, Barbara Ehrenreich, Rashid Khalidi, Amira Haas, Rabbi Arik Asherman, Susan Faludi, and many others. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for supporting listener-sponsored radio, public access cable television, net neutrality, independent bookstores, and all forms of grassroots democratic community media.